They're watching you, but not with curiosity. No, it's not your words, your titles, or your performance that captivates them. They're watching your body. They study your posture when you think no one's paying attention. They notice the way you avoid eye contact, how your feet subtly point toward the door, how your breath shortens when you feel outmatched or uncomfortable. You think you're being clever, hiding your insecurity behind well-practiced speech and confidence. But the truth is, you're not hiding anything. You're bleeding signals. Your body doesn't just speak, it testifies. Every movement, no matter how small, is a confession of your fear, your uncertainty, your hunger to be liked. And that's how the ruthless spot you. It's not by what you say, but by what you leak. In the arenas of power, nothing is neutral. You're either projecting dominance or advertising submission. Weak men are loud with their words, but silent with their presence. Strong men, the untouchables, reverse that. They don't need to explain themselves or fill the air with unnecessary chatter. When they walk in, the atmosphere bends around them. Their silence demands attention. Their stillness unsettles. Every inch of them is calculated, stripped of weakness, immune to emotional flinching. They have mastered the battlefield of body language because they understand one fundamental truth. If you can't control how you're perceived, you'll never control what you get. This world doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't listen to your explanations. It reacts to your energy. And if that energy is unstable, reactive, or uncertain, you become prey. They won't pity you. They'll play you. Your image must become armor. Your presence must speak in threats, not requests. Your posture must say, I don't chase. I don't beg. I don't break. Let that sink in. You think no one's paying attention? You believe that when you walk into a room, it's just another interaction, another mundane moment in the day. But the truth is far more unsettling. They're watching you not out of simple curiosity, but with a cold, calculating gaze. They're not just listening to your words, not even noticing your titles, your performance, or your witty banter. No, they're observing you on a deeper, more primal level. They're watching your body. They're reading the subtle shifts in your posture, the way you carry yourself, the movements you make when you think no one is looking. The way your hands fidget when you're nervous, the way your shoulders drop when you feel threatened, or the way your feet instinctively angle toward the door when you sense danger. Every micro movement, every unconscious gesture becomes an open book to those who know how to read it. You may think you're being clever, masking your insecurity behind well-practiced speech, a rehearsed smile, or a confident stride. But you're not fooling them. You're not hiding anything. Your body is bleeding. Signals, your anxiety, your fears, your hunger to be liked, all leak through your movements, your stillness, your gaze. Your body doesn't just speak, it testifies. Every micro-expression, every tiny shift in your posture is a confession to those who know how to read it. They can see your doubts even before they hear your voice. This is how the predators spot you. They don't need to hear your words. They don't need to understand your story. They read you in the spaces between your sentences, in the way you hold yourself in moments of silence, in the micro changes in your breathing when you're unsure. Your presence, your energy, is leaking everything. It's not just about what you say, but about what you're leaking without realizing it. In the arenas of power, every room is a battlefield, and power is silently measured in every interaction. If you aren't actively commanding your presence, you are unknowingly submitting to someone else's. There is no neutral ground. You're either projecting dominance, or you're advertising submission. The predators are watching you, not to understand you, but to measure you, to size you up. They're looking for weaknesses they can exploit, flaws they can press, vulnerabilities they can expose. They don't make the first move. They're patient. They know that power isn't gained through forceful words or loud displays. No, it's found in stillness, in observation, in calculated moves. Predators don't act rashly. They don't speak first. They watch. They see how you carry yourself. They test your resolve without uttering a word. They'll bump your shoulder in a crowded room, interrupt your sentence during a conversation, or invade your personal space just to see if you flinch. They're not doing it to challenge you outright. They're doing it to measure your response, to see if you retreat, if you give in, if you shrink away in discomfort. They test you to see if you will reveal any signs of weakness. Power doesn't speak loudly. It doesn't need to. The true predators in the room are the ones who sit back, observe, and calculate their next move. They understand that power is not about being the loudest voice. It's about being the stillest, the most composed. It's about making everyone else feel the weight of your presence without having to say a word. Silence becomes their weapon, and silence is often more powerful than words. This is the uncomfortable truth. In any room where power exists, it's being measured at all times, not just by the loudest or most talkative person, but by how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you manage your emotions. If you are not actively commanding presence, you are unconsciously submitting to someone else's frame. And once you submit to their frame, they define the rules of engagement. You lose the power to shape how you're perceived, and others start steering the narrative about who you are, what you're worth, and what you deserve. It's not about fairness. It's not about what you think should happen. It's about how the world works. Those who can dominate the frame, who walk in with a strong, unshakable presence, define the rules of engagement. Most people walk into a room hoping to be liked, hoping to be accepted. They act out of a desire for approval. But the untouchables, the ones who understand the silent game of power, walk in already knowing they won't kneel. This isn't about arrogance or pride. This is about survival. Because in the battle of silent warfare, the person who controls the frame controls the power. Silence. It is a tool many fear, yet few understand. In a world constantly saturated with noise, social media updates, incessant chatter, opinions, and endless distractions, silence stands apart. It is rare, it is uncomfortable, and it is powerful. Silence unsettles the weak. When the room falls quiet, when the words stop, the weak rush to fill the gap because silence exposes their insecurity. It magnifies their fear of being misunderstood, of being unimportant, of being ignored. They fill it with nervous chatter, with uncomfortable laughter, with over-explanation. But to the skilled, silence is not something to be filled. It is something to wield. If you want to become untouchable, you must learn to wield silence like a scalpel. Silence, in the hands of the undisciplined, feels awkward. It can feel like a void, an uncomfortable space where nothing is happening. But in the hands of those who understand power, silence becomes a weapon, strategic, deliberate, and surgical. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. The longer they speak, the more they give away. And in the silence, your control grows. When you don't speak, when you remain still and calm, you force others to reveal everything about themselves, what they truly feel, what they need, what they want, and what they fear. Silence doesn't just make people uncomfortable, it makes them self-conscious. It forces them to confront their own insecurities, their doubts, their need for validation. It turns the room into a mirror, and most people, they hate what they see. They'll start to fidget. They'll speak faster. They'll try to fill the void, to explain themselves, to gain your approval, all while revealing their weaknesses in the process. This is where your power lies. The more you remain silent, the more they reveal. Your power grows in the space between what they want to know and what you choose to show. The gaps you leave behind become fertile ground for others to expose themselves. And the more they expose themselves, the more you learn, the more control you gain. You don't need to say a word to dominate the conversation. You don't need to argue, persuade, or defend. You simply need to stay silent and let others unravel themselves. Machiavelli understood the power of silence. He knew that it is much safer to be feared than loved, and silence has the ability to command fear. The man who can sit in silence, unaffected by the discomfort around him, becomes a figure of power. He doesn't need to speak to prove himself. His stillness speaks for him. His ability to sit in the discomfort, to let the silence stretch, to make others feel the weight of his presence without saying a word. That is what makes him untouchable. Silence should never be passive. It should be felt. It should be controlled. It should be strategic. You speak only when it sharpens your edge, never to soften it. Your silence is not an absence of words. It is the presence of control. The less you say, the more people listen. The less you reveal, the more they want to know. You create an aura of mystery, and mystery holds power. The moment you speak, Every word lands with weight because the silence before it made everyone pay attention. They were waiting for you to speak, for you to reveal yourself. And when you do, every word counts. Think about the most powerful people in history. Think about the generals, the kings, the CEOs, the leaders who commanded respect. They didn't speak to fill gaps. They spoke with intention. They understood that silence was not a void. It was a weapon. It was the space where they could collect their thoughts, gauge the room, and then strike with precision. The more they held their tongue, the more others leaned in, the more their influence grew. Their silence was the ultimate signal of control. It forced the world around them to move according to their rhythm, to adjust to their presence. Silence is not just about what you choose to withhold. It's about the effect it has on others. The powerful don't fear silence. They know that silence is an instrument of power. In silence, you gain clarity. You observe, you listen, you understand. In the silence, you control the narrative. Others might rush to fill it, but you stand firm, calm, and deliberate. You hold the space, and in holding the space, you hold the power. In any negotiation, conflict, or high-stakes conversation, it is often the one who remains calm and quiet that wields the true power. The one who does not rush to fill the silence with explanations or justifications becomes the one everyone else listens to. The one who can hold their ground in the quiet moments becomes the one who shapes the outcome. In a world where everyone is screaming to be heard, silence is the rarest and most valuable tool. It is the weapon of choice for those who understand the battlefield of power. When you wield silence with purpose, you don't need to dominate with words. You dominate with presence. You let the world around you bend and adjust to you. Control the frame, and you control everything: power, respect, influence, and perception. Every social interaction, every conversation, every negotiation is a covert war between frames. A frame is not just how you present yourself to others. It's the lens through which the world perceives you. It shapes the reality of every situation, and whoever holds the strongest frame determines the rules of engagement. The battle for dominance is fought not with words or gestures, but with the frame you bring into the room. Most people, especially those who are unaware of this dynamic, walk into a room without realizing that they are entering a battlefield. They think it's about what they say or how they perform, but in reality, the war is happening behind the scenes. The battle is about the internal frame, the set of beliefs, standards, and values that define how you view yourself and how others will view you. It's the foundation of your identity and the ultimate weapon in shaping perception. The weak, the untrained, the unsure, they default to the energy of others. They mirror, they react, they let the world shape their frame for them. One sarcastic comment from someone in power, and they become defensive. One dismissive glance, and they shrink into submission. The moment you react, you've lost control. The moment you engage emotionally, you've handed over the reins to someone else. When you lose the frame, you lose the power to shape how people see you. Think about it. Who controls the frame, controls the narrative. The one who can define the terms of engagement is the one who decides what reality will be. Most people walk into a room hoping to be liked, hoping to fit in, hoping to gain approval. But the untouchables, the true masters, walk in with a frame already set in stone. They know who they are. They don't need anyone's approval. They don't need to defend themselves. They understand that the frame they walk in with is the one everyone else will bend to. This is not about arrogance. It's about power. Power doesn't require validation. Power doesn't need to ask for permission. The untouchable doesn't walk into a room hoping to be accepted. They walk in with the certainty that they don't need to be liked to be respected. They know that in any interaction, there can only be one frame that dominates, and they control it. When you enter any room, you should already know that your frame is unshakable. The powerful ones don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to justify their actions. They simply occupy space with their frame, and the world around them adjusts. They don't argue or negotiate. They don't waste energy trying to get others to understand their point of view. Their presence alone shifts the atmosphere. It is the strongest frame that determines the rules of engagement. The weak are reactive. They let others control their energy. They take things personally. They shrink when tested. But the powerful don't react. They define, They set the terms. They walk into a room and immediately everyone else feels the weight of their presence. The room becomes their domain. People don't talk over them. They talk to them. People don't question them. They follow them. Your frame is your internal fortress. It's the set of principles, beliefs, and self-awareness that define you. It is built from clarity, not from ego, it says. This is who I am. This is my standard. This is my direction. It doesn't bend for comfort, and it doesn't need your approval. The frame is your unshakable foundation, built on the idea that you do not need to seek validation from others. Once your frame is established, others around you will either adjust to it or leave. There's no middle ground. They will either respect you or they will retreat. When you command the frame, you define how others engage with you. But this doesn't happen by accident. It requires brutal clarity. You must know exactly who you are and what you stand for. Your frame should be so solid that no external force, whether it's criticism, insults, or challenges, can shift it. Weakness seeps through when your frame isn't clear. And when your frame isn't clear, others will start defining it for you. They will decide your value, your worth, your role in the conversation. The weak let others define them. The strong define themselves. The more clear and unwavering your frame, the less you'll need to defend it. Others will sense your strength and align themselves with your energy. You won't need to fight for dominance. Your frame will automatically demand respect. You'll stop being a reactive player in the game of life and start being the one who sets the terms. Think about your interactions, your daily exchanges with people. The small moments, the subtle power dynamics, each one is a contest for the frame. How often do you allow others to dominate your interactions? How often do you shrink or bend to someone else's frame? In a negotiation, for example, the person who holds the frame is the one who decides the terms. They determine the pace of the conversation, the terms of agreement, and the outcome. The one who reacts, who bends, or adjusts too quickly, loses control. And it's the same in every conversation, every business deal, every personal interaction. When you let others challenge your frame, you become vulnerable to manipulation. But when you stand firm in your frame, when you know who you are and what you stand for, you take control of every room you enter. The most powerful people in history were not the loudest. They didn't need to dominate with words or gestures. They simply understood the power of the frame. They walked into rooms with certainty, with a clear sense of direction, and everyone else had no choice but to follow. The true kings, the true leaders, did not defend their crown in every conversation. They simply occupied space with authority and let their presence do the talking. Battleground of human interactions. Your physical presence reveals everything about you. Your confidence, your dominance, your insecurity, or your vulnerability. In the cold calculus of power, every movement is a silent revelation. When you enter a room, you're not just being seen by your eyes. People are reading your body language. Every slight shift, every gesture, every inch of space you occupy. Your body becomes the first communication, louder than any words you speak. The way you walk, stand, sit, and even breathe, all of it reveals your mental programming. And once others see it, they use it against you. They understand whether you are a threat or easy prey. Now, think about the men who hold real power. Watch them closely. They move slowly, deliberately, and economically. Every step is calculated. There's no fidgeting, no twitching, no signs of rushed energy. Every movement is purposeful. They walk like they're not in a hurry, because they're not. Time bends to them. When they speak, they don't rush to fill every silence. Their presence fills the room without them ever needing to dominate it with noise. They know the power of stillness. Contrast that with someone who lacks internal command. You've seen them. Their movements are frantic. They touch their face too often, as if trying to ground themselves in a moment they don't feel fully in control of. They shuffle their feet. They cross and uncross their arms like they're searching for a way to stand comfortably. Their shoulders slump inward, trying to make themselves smaller, to blend into the surroundings. They move with haste because their mind is scattered, their energy unfocused. They speak with their hands too much, overcompensating with gestures, desperately trying to communicate their worth. They over-explain, trying to fill gaps, because they feel inadequate without validation. Every move, every twitch, Every fidget betrays their insecurity. It's not just about how you stand. It's about how you control yourself. When you move like you have authority, when your body language reflects a calm, centered, confident mindset, you send a clear signal to those around you. You are not a victim of your environment. You are the master of it. When you're able to remain still in the face of discomfort, when you move with purpose and intention, you project dominance without saying a word. Your body speaks louder than any argument, louder than any display of ego. The most important part of this is learning to be aware of your own body. Do you move like a weapon, or do you move like a wound? Every time you shift, every time you cross your arms or look away in discomfort, you reveal something about your inner state. Your body is like a radar, broadcasting your emotions to the world. And if you don't have control over it, if you allow your emotions to dictate your movements, then you are broadcasting your vulnerabilities. You're making yourself a target. In high-stakes environments, whether you're negotiating, competing, or even simply interacting socially, your movements will reveal what's happening inside. If your body shows discomfort through fidgeting, shifting your posture too often, or avoiding eye contact, others will recognize that. They will see your weakness, your insecurity, and they will use it against you. Your movements will make you predictable. And in a world where power is won through unpredictability, predictability is a liability. The most dangerous individuals in any room are the ones who move slowly, deliberately, and with complete awareness. They know exactly what their body is saying, and they choose their movements carefully. They have mastered stillness and control. They don't rush. They are never out of sync with their surroundings. They enter the room with confidence, and their movements reflect it. Every action, from the way they walk to the way they gesture, is calculated, precise, and under control. The real key to power is mastering movement. When you're able to remain calm under pressure, to move with purpose instead of emotion, you send a clear message to the world. I am in control. You become unreadable to those who rely on instinct and reaction. Your stillness makes them uneasy. Your calculated pace unsettles them because they can't predict what you'll do next. Your movements become a reflection of your inner strength. And that strength is intimidating to anyone who isn't equally confident in themselves. Now, think about the men who don't have this control. They move frantically. They try to rush through situations. Their bodies reflect their inner turmoil, whether it's anxiety, fear, or insecurity. They are constantly in motion, but it's a chaotic, unfocused energy. And because they're so reactive, they are easily manipulated. Their minds are scattered. And that scattered energy is broadcasted in every movement they make. Their body language betrays them, revealing their weakness before their words ever do. The most dangerous thing you can do in a high-stakes environment is show any sign of weakness through your body. The key to maintaining control in any situation is mastering your body language. You must be aware of your every movement, every shift in posture, every glance, every footstep must be calculated. Your body should reflect calm, not chaos. Control, not anxiety. Certainty, not doubt.